Welcome back to Columbus Brick by Brick, the show where we highlight the people, projects, and ideas shaping the future of our city. I'm your host, John Steyer, broker and owner of Steyer Hospitality Co., where we help investors maximize cash flow through furnished short and midterm rentals across Columbus. Today's guest is Nick Karakaian, principal and co-founder of ArcFluence, a firm redefining how architecture supports real estate investment. Nick's path runs from the Air Force Service to real estate sales in New York and ultimately launching a Columbus-based architecture firm that blends design, technology, and strategy. In this episode, we're going to unpack the moment he saw a gap in our market and decided to build something different. We talk about architecture as an investment, not just an expense, and how thoughtful design can directly impact long-term value. We're going to dig into ADUs, common investor mistakes, leadership under pressure, and what Columbus needs to get right as it continues to grow. So, if you care about building smarter and shaping this city with intention, you are going to get a lot from this one. Let's dive in. Well, Nick, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited about this conversation. I've known you for a few years, but I always find that I get to learn new things about the people who I host on the podcast. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to learn more about your journey for our listeners who don't know you. You are the principal and co-founder of ArcFluence, but you've worn a lot of hats, I think, over the years. So
I still do, I think.
Share with us what that journey looked like and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, well, I mean, you could go back to my college days where I was in...
Take us back.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a college dropout, actually. I took a pause on my college education. I started out as a business major, and I got into construction. Mm-hmm. I was striping parking lots and drywalling houses 25 years ago-ish. Now I think I got to a place in my life where I was like, I want more.
Yep.
And that has always been the narrative. I always wanted to be a business owner, and I had my side hustles growing up, for sure. But that led me to making some choices about getting back to school, which brought me to the Air Force. So I did that journey, which was great, and that got me back into college, which allowed me to get my master's in architecture, which ultimately led me to meeting my wife, which then took me to New York City, where I worked for Google. I ended up getting my real estate license. I ended up getting my contractor's license. I ended up starting a handyman business. Sarah had a great eye for interior design, so we just ran with our natural talents and started designing kitchens and baths for high-end luxury apartments. Of course, you know the Airbnb story, so we started we rented out our basement as an Airbnb. About 15 years ago that journey started, and then we just had to make some decisions about where we wanted to go, and at that point in my life, I started listening to Bigger Pockets. And
classic.
So all these things in that are related to the same industry started connecting, where we have interior design and organizing and staging and design, architecture, construction, and we're like, okay, let's move and leave it all behind and start over, because that's what you do when you're get
seeking opportunity.
We got a knock on our door and an offer we couldn't refuse on the house we ended up purchasing in Queens. And so we took the money and ran. Got an RV, traveled the country, kind of where we were at a kind of a crossroads. We're like, okay, well, this is where we decide we're going to go. We need to decide now. This is a good...
You're putting down roots somewhere.
Yeah. So I mean, we were in Seattle, Portland, Austin, Denver, all over the place. I mean, we were in Florida. We were in. We put in we almost ended up in down in Alabama.
Oh, really?
But Columbus had friends and family. I did grow up in the Cleveland area, and we ended up putting an offer in a fourplex here in Grandview, and it went through.
Yeah.
So after that, we kind of just started honing our skills and making some decisions. We're still doing a lot, but now over the last decade, we've been able to create certain partnerships that allowed us to then focus on, an architecture firm, a consulting company. Sarah obviously is doing Thanks for Visiting and her podcast and her education platform. So we're starting to find our way, I think.
I think that's doing a lot of heavy lifting. I think that you guys do a lot, but you do it very well. So I want to know more about your architecture firm and the journey. What did that look like from a kernel to where you guys are now, which you just shared with some news with me, which I don't want to share for you, but I don't know if that's out there. So anyways, talk to me about specifically the architecture firm and what that's looked like.
It's funny because after getting a master's in architecture, you think you have a very specific track. Like you go work for a firm, you stay in a firm, you move your way up, and so on and so forth. That wasn't the case for me. After going to Google and doing a less conventional path, I didn't think that I'd ever work for an architecture firm or let alone own one.
Yeah.
So I stuck to, I was still in design. I was designing kitchen and bath. I was designing our flips. I was designing our rentals. But people, in Columbus, a lot has changed over the last few years.
Totally.
I remember when I first got here, we could literally sketch on pieces of paper and get permits. That is not the case anymore.
No.
So over the years, people were asking me to do their floor plans. So I decided to start getting into that. All of a sudden, a couple of years later, I'm doing 50, 60, 70, 80 different projects on the residential side, designing kitchens, bath, whole houses, renovation, stuff like that. And then my best friend from college, Paul, and I over the years, I'm like, I'm always planting seeds, right? If you're an entrepreneur, and I know you are,
yes,
you're always sticking your neck out, just say like, hey, by the way, just in case you're interested in doing this, I'd be interested in doing that.
If we're not married by the time we're 45, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Paul moves from Chicago, finally made the move. I wanted them to come to New York. It didn't happen. So I'm going, guys, I'm in Columbus. Nino's in Cleveland. Paul's in Chicago. I'm like, get your butts to Columbus. Let's start something awesome. Because I wanted to do bigger, more exciting projects.
Yeah.
That was several years ago. I guess ArcFluence officially opened their doors in about 3 years ago. And the news that we were talking about, I just got a phone call prior to this, and we have an accepted offer for, we put an offer in on an office building, so an office suite.
Huge step.
Yep.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So you had always considered, or it sounds like you hadn't always thought you would have your own firm. What was the catalyst for that for you? Was there a moment in which you said, you know what, I want to do this for myself?
I've always wanted to do it for myself, but I think there is a fundamental change in the way I was thinking when you go from multiple side hustles. Like, you're proud of yourself when you can create a 6-figure income.
Sure.
But you're still working very, very hard for it. I think that there is a shift when you realize the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner and actually having a team and building a culture. I think that now instead of doing addition, we're doing multiplication, right? So I think that was it. And Paul and I now have this shared vision where we want to grow a big firm, start doing projects that's going to impact the skyline, impact businesses, impact the community. You're able to do more things when you play big, right? So now that we feel that it's possible and we're seeing the fruits of our labor, we're pushing the gas pedal.
I love that. I love the vision. And I love what you said, and I've heard you say it before, and I remember when you said it to me the first time, that you're going to impact the skyline. That is such a well-put vision for your company, and it really sings to me. So kudos on that, and I look forward to it. Look forward to seeing you do it, because I believe you will. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what you guys do, because I know that you blend design and technology as well as real estate strategy. how would you describe your core philosophy around architecture as an investment rather than just aesthetics?
Well, so let's take a step back. The way I look at design is, it's a crude analogy, but it's kind of like the way you look at how you're dressed. Mm-hmm. It's like the third skin. So imagine you put on your favorite Lulus and you're feeling good, you're feeling sharp. You're going to walk into a space a little bit more confident. Mm-hmm. And maybe you don't. Or maybe whatever makes you feel empowered. Mm-hmm. That type of analogy I like to take and put into the built environment. So like when you're walking into a space where there's some life and there's some color and there's some inspiration, like you are naturally going to then be at ease. Mm-hmm. Right? When you're in a restaurant and the lights are dim, you feel more comfortable to talk. If it's stark, bright white, it's a little bit less, it's a little awkward, right? So the goal is to create an environment where humans can perform at their best.
Yeah.
That impacts business, that impacts your longevity. I mean, it impacts your life in so many different ways. So if you approach it from that perspective, you are adding value on the real estate side. When you're creating spaces that are of high value to tenants, guests, buyers,
right?
You're putting there's a value there. So you're impacting the price of real estate. You're impacting the price of the rentals. Everything that you do and touch will grow.
Yeah, and that was actually my next question is, how do you marry architecture with the value that you drive for a piece of real estate?
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Because the numbers don't always work out, right? Mm-hmm. So that has to be something that's at front of mind. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if the budget isn't there, then it might not be a good fit, mm-hmm. right? Because if I want to maximize the value of something, there has to be some allowance. So, but you're right. It's a conversation, and it can work in some scenarios and it doesn't work in others.
What does a conversation like that look like? So if I own a piece of real estate and I'm considering making some changes to the design, how do I put a finger on what that value is? And I imagine there's some art to the science. Walk me through that.
Well, first we're going to identify what you're using the property as.
Yeah.
Is this your forever home? Is this going to be a rental? Is this your home office? Mm-hmm. Is this an investment property? Like, or are you flipping it? Mm-hmm. So like once we determine what we're trying to do with the project, and maybe we even explore those options, because that will dictate, like if you have timeline's also an issue. Mm-hmm. So like, where are we at with that? If we're not going to do this huge addition, if we need to get out of this project in 9 months, right. If this is a second tier project for you, when your main project is going to be focused over here, but this is an opportunity that popped up, mm-hmm. You're able to take advantage of it. Okay, well, how can we do this quickly? We don't want this to drag on. This is just an extra piece. So, or this is my forever home. My parents are moving in here. I need this to be perfect for them. Mm-hmm. And but I also want to add value. So how can we add this addition that's going to add value to the home, the square footage? It's not going to impact the curb appeal and make it look like, but something that was meant to be, that it was designed for this. Mm-hmm. And now it's functioning as a separate residence that's going to give the privacy and freedom to, my family, where we can make this work. And then we have a conversation on, what are the most important characteristics? Is it space? Is it materials? And to be honest, and this also, in Columbus, we are going through a renaissance. There's a lot of contractors out there.
Yes.
Some are amazing. Mm-hmm. Some are not. Mm-hmm. Some are priced at a premium. Some are not. Some are in the Goldilocks zone, as I like to say, and they do great work, mm-hmm. right? And those are the people that we're really trying to find.
Yeah.
So in terms of pricing out a project from a construction side, we help navigate those conversations. But at the end of the day, as of now at least, and this might be something in ArcFluence's future, we're not a design build firm. Mm-hmm. But we work with dozens of contractors. Yeah. And I do have a short list of my favorites.
Right.
That changes from time to time.
And that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
For our listeners who may be considering, maybe they haven't worked with an architect before, but they're venturing towards that, what are a few questions that you would ask them in an initial meeting that maybe they can think about now based on this conversation to see if it's a fit?
Yeah. A lot of the stuff we're doing these days is full house renovations, additions, larger scopes of work. We do some kitchen stuff still, but it's usually for higher end homes. I would first try to identify the scope of work, right?
Yeah.
And
what are you wanting to do?
Right. There are some people too, like there are still some gray areas where if you're just replacing like for like you don't want to move your toilet or say you're doing a kitchen renovation or a bathroom renovation. If you're just upgrading the tile, the shower, the toilet, and the vanity, and the floors, painting the walls, updating lighting fixtures, if everything is like for like and we're not adding anything, you don't necessarily need a permit, you know? And I mean, really, because you're swapping out a fixture, right? I suppose if you're tearing up floors, we're getting into some gray areas. Yeah. But my point is once we start changing things, where I want to move this, I want to move that, I want to expand this, I want some storage, I want, now we're pulling permits. So we're like, okay, well, what's the best strategy for this? In a lot of cases, if your contractor's coming in to quote a kitchen, you may or may not be leaving your house for this, right? Well, guess what? Throwing in a kitchen or throwing in a bathroom to that scope and painting the rest of your house, maybe doing some like adding a little bit to that scope is actually makes sense from a cost standpoint on doing a larger project. The smaller project is you're paying more of a premium, in my experience.
Right.
And the larger
economies of scale.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So if we're like, listen, I've been sitting on this 3% mortgage for 10 years. I don't have any cash, but I can pull a line of credit on my house and my house is doubled or tripled in value.
Yeah, which has happened a lot.
I can now add square footage, which is that really moves the needle, right? If you do a renovation and you give your kitchen upgrade, you're probably getting 80 cents on the dollar. You're not necessarily adding tremendous value.
You're doing it for you.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, if we can reorganize a space, add a butler's pantry, make it function better, it might be closer to that dollar for dollar. But if you're adding square footage, you're getting $1.30, for your dollar that you're putting in. So you're actually adding significant equity to the house and getting a return on your investment instantly, right? Not just with natural market stuff. And that'll continue to grow. Obviously, if you have a $300,000 home and the market's going up, 3 to 7% per year, you're going to accumulate less wealth than if you have a $500,000 home accumulating 3 to 7% equity a year, right? You're going to scale.
And there's a lot of moving pieces and levers to that and nuance, but that's very interesting and something that I would imagine not a lot of people consider when they're considering their home situation.
Yeah. And right now we're in this beautiful golden era of people want to put money into entertainment and guests and hosting. So we have, and not just for rentals, but for just hosting in your home, in your personal home. So amenities are a big conversation piece. We're talking about pools, saunas, hot tubs, all the stuff that go with that, which is fun. I mean, because now you get to be creative on how this isn't something that's just more economic. Well, we need this to function this way. No, we can now start having conversations about how are your guests going to enter in this space? How are you going to feel when you're in the space? What is going to be are there peekaboo views of this space? Is there some things that are going to hit you right in the face? Like, how do you want people to interact as they proceed through this environment, right?
Yeah. I think that in knowing you and seeing your work, a lot of what you guys do is design related as well. And talk to me about a little bit about your philosophy around design. Some of the things you just mentioned just sparked that question in my mind, and I'd like to hear you speak a little bit more about it.
I try to read the client, so I do a lot of listening because I can go both ways. I'm an investor. I have rental portfolios, and I want to be like, okay, how can we maximize our profitability? Which would be like, if it's we love our short-term rentals. If it's a short-term rental, I'm designing one bath for one bedroom. Yeah. Because I want to charge a premium for my short-term rental, and I want to have an amazing experience where they can. We don't have to. You can have a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath house is wonderful. Yes. Or 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath house is wonderful for a short-term rental. So and storage is not going to be at a premium, right? We'll have storage that works, but we're not having these big closet vanity experiences. No, we're going to put the money into the entertainment piece. What's happening outside? How are we indoor outdoor experience in the summer times and being able to host? Is it pet friendly? Can I work from this place too? What if I want to stay here 2-3 months? What if I'm shopping for a house and I want this to feel like home or be in the neighborhood that I'm shopping in, but I still need to also work because we're relocating from Florida. Actually, I can't believe the number of people that are coming to Columbus right now. California, I've never met so many people.
Columbus is a great place to be.
It is. But like if you travel the country, Columbus is not typically highlighted in conversations.
You know, it's interesting. I listened to a panel earlier this week, and one of the things that was highlighted was visiting Columbus increases your, I don't remember the exact stat or how it was worded, but I'm paraphrasing, you're 2 times as likely to want to live here after having visited and seen.
Because you're getting the
people
big,
aren't aware.
Yeah, opportunity, big city amenities, cost of living, still very affordable compared to other places. I'm meeting people from Florida, Texas, California, New York every day now who are like, yeah, we just moved here 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I'm like, this is where all this goes. Typically in the past, when we first got here, I felt like I was alone in saying I was from New York, although technically I was still from Cleveland.
Yeah.
But most of the people who did live here were from Ohio, just different. Ohio has endless amounts of small towns.
Yes.
And they have naturally gravitated towards Columbus, which has been most of its growth over the last couple decades up until recently. But now we're starting to see a lot of people from all over the place. It's exciting.
Yeah, I think COVID was a big shift in that as well. People started just saying, okay, let's make a move.
Yeah.
And Columbus was on that list. And at that time, it was bonkers. And I think that was national, but especially here. We were one of the hottest markets in the country.
Yeah. And now everyone's like, gosh, how are these young kids going to afford their first home? It's getting hard.
It is.
Not impossible.
No.
We're still getting cash flow in rentals, not nearly as much as we used to.
Right.
But that's why we are creative with short term and stuff like that. But yeah, we're watching it change right now.
Yes.
It's an exciting.
We are living it.
Yeah.
A lot of our listeners are real estate professionals. Can you share with me a misconception that you see a lot from real estate professionals in working with someone like you in a firm like yours?
I know a lot of people are looking for design builds. They want a one-stop shop. The problem with that, in some cases, at least this is my humble opinion, is that a builder might have 6 options for you, and you're gonna be limited, right? So if you're an investor or you're looking for a starter home, it's probably a different conversation. But if you want to get something that's going to be high dollar value, highly custom, where we can really like make this space special for you, you're going to want to hire an architecture firm that has done it 800 times. I think that the timelines are sometimes a little shocking, and we're fairly fast. I mean, I know firms that are months out. We're a month out typically. On a turnaround on a custom home, we're looking at 2 to 3 months. Some firms are a lot longer, depending on also if we're adding an interior design, and there's certain things that can, landscape architecture, interior design, it can prolong the project. But I think from on the investor side, even when we're not doing all those things, they still want it within weeks. Yeah. And they don't even completely understand. In some cases, that's not true. There's a lot of people who are very educated on the topic, but the permitting process is changing, I would say, monthly. Yeah. And the code isn't changing. Actually, Paul is on the board, which helps write and decide and advise on the code that's coming out for residential housing in Ohio. But I think that we're now at a place where we're enforcing everything. And energy efficiency is becoming very important, not just safety. So there's a lot of things that are changing on the city side of things for permitting approval. So timelines are sometimes hard to swallow for some investors, especially if they're borrowing that money. It's a hard money loan. We're paying daily on this interest. Like, what do you mean it's going to take 3 months?
Yeah.
We need to start having an expectation that some of this stuff done at a high level and done well takes time.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And good knowledge to have on the front end for someone that's considering, taking that step. Hey, plan accordingly.
Yeah.
All right, quick pause in the conversation. I want to highlight something that fits right into this real estate world that we're always talking about. Steyer Hospitality Co. brings together a full-service furnished rental management company and a real estate brokerage under one roof. So owners, investors, and agents get reliable support from people who know the industry. Everything we do is built on real systems, trained staff, and the same level of oversight that I expect in my brokerage office. That gives owners a consistent process, steady communication, and a guest experience that feels intentional instead of reactive. If you own a property and feel like it could be performing better as a shorter midterm rental, or you're spending too much time handling guests and unit turnovers, that is exactly where we can step in. We manage the entire operation so the property supports your goals rather than adding more stress to your week. And for the agents listening, we are a resource that you can plug directly into your business. If you have clients trying to keep their low interest rate on their current home while moving up, we can model the numbers and outline the strategy and run the property if they choose to convert it into a furnished rental. And if you have clients who need temporary housing during a transition, we can help place them quickly and keep the process smooth for everyone involved. If you want to see what your property could do in the short or midterm space, or you want a management partner you can rely on, head to SteyerHospitalityCo.com, or you can reach out to me directly through the site and we can talk through your goals, run projections, and build a clear plan. Now let's get back to the conversation. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Columbus recently passed ADU regulation,
yes,
which is great, and it's going to reshape our housing supply in some ways. I want to talk about the opportunity for investors and for neighborhoods that's going to come from that, as well as where you see potential missteps. And before we get into it, for anyone that doesn't know, can you explain what an ADU is?
Sure. Accessory dwelling unit, essentially an apartment or a living space that a small home that is separate from the main residence. Mm-hmm. Typically, you're going to see this on a single family home parcel. Yes. So now you have two homes. So we're essentially doubling the housing stock, theoretically. This is huge. It's a small piece of the zoned in ordinance and the zoning changes that's happening in Columbus, which is also very exciting. But this particularly kind of helps the small investor, the homeowner, the normal person get their foot in the door for a number of different possibilities. And this is going to blow your mind. One, what if you have a family and your kids are 3, 4, 5? They're just getting ready to get into school, but you can't afford to buy a house in Upper Arlington or wherever the school system might be, Big Walnut, you can't afford to buy these new builds or these homes in these nicer neighborhoods. Well, you might, and you don't want to settle for a lesser school and you don't have money for private school. You can now buy a home, build an ADU, and create a rental income that allows you to offset your mortgage so you can be in a better neighborhood with a better school district for your children, right? Yes, you are going to have to play landlord. Yes, you're going to have to figure that out. However, there's a price to pay when you're trying to do things for you and your family,
totally.
Right? And this allows you to do that. 2, what if COVID just happened? A lot of us have gone back to the office, but several people have realized, hey, I love working from home. But you know what? I've been working on my kitchen table far too long. This is killing, too many distractions. This isn't as efficient as it could be. Guess what? You can build a carriage house and you can have a beautiful office apartment above your new garage, right? Separation, but still in your yard. Yeah. Right. We can now have our parents who are, what if my parents live in Medina? I have to drive an hour and a half. My dad's turning 79 or 80 this year. what if we have to go see them right away, right?
Right.
What if they're able to live with you but not in your house? Now we have an ADU on your house that allows them, an apartment that's close to you that allows you to take care of them and fill that role for them and pay it forward, right? What they did for you when you were young.
Yeah.
I have neighbors in German Village who are retired. They are on a fixed income. They don't want to leave their house. It's paid off.
Yeah.
The problem is the taxes are quadrupling.
Yes.
And listen, we're not talking about, I'm throwing a number, I think $6,000 or $7,000 a year. For somebody who's on a fixed income, who has been on a fixed income for maybe a decade,
that changes their whole
they can't afford
landscape.
that.
Yeah.
They can't afford that. So what are they going to do? Are they going to go live with their family? Or are they going to sell it and buy something in a less desirable place? They don't want to. They want to stay. Guess what? They got a lot of equity in that property. They can pull out that HELOC. They can build an ADU. They can build an accessible ADU if that's more custom to them, tailored to them. They can move into that. They can rent out the house, and that income will now allow them the affordability to stay.
Right.
Also, let's go back to investors. None of that had to do with investors.
Yeah.
Now investors are able to say, oh, cool, I don't have to, the land's the most expensive and hardest piece in a lot of cases.
Right.
I have a house.
Yeah.
Now I can try my game at being an investor without taking as much of a risk, right? And it's on my property, so I'm adding value to my property. Right. I'm building
You're maximizing the value.
Boom. So I mean, it's endless. This is so big that I don't think people realize what you really can do with this. Yeah. It's huge.
I'm really excited about it in my space, and as someone who owns real estate and is as an investor and wants to maximize the value. But also the doors that it can unlock going forward on deals that may or may not have made sense. But the biggest thing that I think why this is so good beyond that, because that's, call that selfish or whatever, is that we need housing. We need housing locally. We need housing nationally.
And this is impacting like 40% of the city. So while developers are still needed and necessary, that is a very niche situation that most people can't take advantage of building 100-unit apartment complexes. Right. That still needs to happen. Yeah. And I still support that. But I don't want to change the fabric of our neighborhoods, right? So now we can create something that's complementary. We're not tearing down these houses. We can literally, add more housing with still complementing the neighborhood without kind of ruining that fabric, right? Right,
exactly. And it's exciting. What would that look like for someone who maybe is considering putting an ADU in maybe their backyard?
Well, now we don't have to go through the variance process, which takes months and costs thousands of dollars. We just need to design the thing. So is it a carriage house? And I'm seeing if you're in the downtown area and you have your alley in the back and you have the garage in the back or parking in the back, these are narrow lots. Yep. So, I mean, until we get out a little ways, you're probably building a carriage house because building a garage on the lower level just makes sense because you want to be able to, sacrificing parking is
tough.
Yeah, and you're adding more value when you're not losing any parking and you're adding value. So it's kind of a win-win if we're going that route. I can totally understand the ADA accessibility and things like that. So there are some cases where we can even try to, if the lot's long enough, we can set that structure back into the yard a little bit, which really shrinks the backyard of the house. So you got to create kind of a shared space, but it's on the table. Right. And then we can still have that parking in the front of the alley, but you have more of a recess back. Again, it really just depends on, every project's different and special. Yeah. But yeah. Well, I don't know if I answered your question on that.
Well, no, I mean, I think that the ease of getting it going, I mean, you were always going to need to design it and build it regardless, but the ease of just saying, okay, if I want to do this, I can do it and not fight an uphill battle.
Correct. It's before we were like, are we going to be able to get permission for this? Yeah. And I would say in a lot of cases, they would allow it. The problem is it was a longer timeline. It was more expensive. And to be fair, it wasn't 100% guaranteed. Yeah. So now it's like
a gamble.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's like, you can do this.
Yeah.
We just need to secure funding. We need to design it. We need to submit it and go through the standard process of what you'd typically see for a permit submission.
Is there an area where you feel like it makes a lot of sense, and then maybe some areas where it's like, maybe not?
Yes, because it depends on the property and what neighborhood you're in. In a lot of cases, you could be putting in more money than you're getting back.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful because new construction is still not cheap.
No.
And like I said, we are in this renaissance, and it's almost like you got to be very diligent in who you're working with and who you're partnering with. You got to make sure you can communicate with them, not just your architect, but your contractor, right? Especially your contractor.
Yeah.
So, no, doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it makes sense to just move out of that house that you live in, rent that out long term because it's not appropriate for short term.
Right.
And buy a new house or build a new house.
That's on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple different, there's actually a lot of different possibilities there. So we have that conversation all the time.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Well, we talked a little bit about the growth of Columbus and what we've seen and anticipate in the future. How do you strategize with your business around that growth? What are in terms of project selection or risk tolerance, long-term strategy, what does that look like for you guys? Do you have those conversations? Do you have those thoughts?
Yes. If I'm being totally honest, ArcFluence is still in growth mode.
Yeah.
So we're hiring.
Yeah.
We're saying yes to a lot of things. We're starting to say no to things. We're doing bigger projects. Right now, we're still about 75% residential, 25% commercial. We're looking to flip that. We're looking to do a lot more. So we're getting some of our first commercial development projects where I want to be an old man and be like, I designed that building,
right,
and I designed that building. But it's starting to happen.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and I think again, Columbus is, with all this growth that's happening in not just one sector, but all education, medical, politics, Silicon Heartland.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's the food scene, the startups. There's so much
happening.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
It is.
We're lucky to be here.
Yes, and I feel the same way with my business, and I tell my agents all the time, like, we are lucky to be here. We are lucky to be in this time, in this location.
If you started your real estate career as an agent 10, 15 years ago, your business looks a lot different today.
A lot different. And we've been up and down and all around town, but it's good. We're in a good spot right now, I think. Well, let's talk about, was there a time in which you guys had a project that didn't go as planned, or an experience that taught you about resilience or leadership or decision making? It's good to hear the good, but was there any time where,
of course,
this was a growth opportunity for us?
Of course. And if anyone said otherwise, I think they'd be lying.
Right.
As a business owner, you're usually pretty good at your trade. Whatever service you're providing, you're good at that thing, but it doesn't always translate to owning and growing a company.
Yeah.
And leading people and nurturing people. And this is a new skill sets that, as a business owner, it's your responsibility to figure out. And sometimes it's hard.
It's very hard.
I'm finding myself now I still try to design. I love that process, and nothing's ever going to take me out of that completely. But majority of my time is not designing anymore.
You're a business owner.
Yeah.
All the fun that comes.
Which I do love. Here's the thing. Designing, I can get lost. I can go down a rabbit hole and work till 2:00 in the morning designing somebody's custom home. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get up in the morning. I've lost track of time. When you're running a business, there are certain aspects that I love like that and I'm passionate about, but there are tough conversations that I don't want to deal with in a lot of cases, right? So it's great because it keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
But it also keeps me humbled because I mess up daily.
Sure.
Communicating with clients, communicating with team members. It happens. Sometimes we take on a little bit too much work. Yeah. And then we're like, okay, we need to we need to make sure we're managing this properly and setting the right expectations to our client. A lot of times so we call it scope creep. So we'll have a contract that determines like, hey, we're adding 1,000-foot addition to your home, to your 3,000 square foot home. It's going to include these amenities. We're adding, pool, carriage house, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, you know what? We're going to, instead of building the garage, we want to build a carriage house. And this comes up and I go, okay, we can absolutely do that. And clients understand that takes more work, but sometimes they forget it takes more time. Mm-hmm. So like if I've already planned to start other projects and now I'm pushing this out another 4 weeks, it's really impacting the whole situation. So we are now like, okay, cool. Well, as we have about five people at our firm right now, and we really need to have a few more. Mm-hmm.
That's a good problem.
Yeah. And I think, again, the leadership will be doing more leadership and less actual production so that they can manage the team, develop the team, and manage those relationships. When you're doing it all, it's so fun and exhilarating, but it's also a lot of work. So like, you got to get your sleep so that you can show up at your best and be your best as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about Columbus in general. Are there any trends that you're seeing in real estate and urban design that are exciting you most right now? We talked about the ADU thing, which is exciting, but what's something cool that I don't even know about?
It might be because of our branding and marketing and what we're chasing after, but we're starting to see a lot of higher end people are valuing interior design, beautiful finishes, beautiful spaces, which is good. Yeah, because as I mentioned earlier, the impact that has on you and everything else is unmeasurable in some cases. I remember we did a lot of interior design in New York. I did luxury kitchens and baths in New York City. Mm-hmm. We've been in Columbus now over 9 years. Gosh, maybe 10 years this August. Goodness gracious. No, it'd be 9 years. 9 years. And a decade ago, I came here wanting to do kitchen design and stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of people willing to spend $200 an hour on interior design. Mm-hmm. Now there is. Mm-hmm. So I think that the market has really opened up. We're getting a lot of clients that are saying, I want this space curated. I want this designed in a very specific way. Yeah. I want you to take me shopping. I want to be involved in the process, but I want it to be a collaboration, which is really great because for me, that's really the fun part. I love my space planning. I want it to be functional. I need it to make sense, but I also want to tie that bow on in the end and have a portfolio worthy for pictures.
Yes. And I can imagine that if it's laid out perfectly, it doesn't matter as much as the visual aspect.
Things that you don't think about, lighting, even audio. They're scent. We're putting stuff in HVAC systems now that are making it more pleasant. Lavender. So
interesting.
There's when we're addressing the space, it's not just looking at something in plan and making it the most cost effective anymore. It's making the space the most valuable, right? And the experience the best it can possibly be, based on your goals.
Love it. Well, let's look ahead 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Where do you see your role in the shifting of Columbus? And I know you hinted at it earlier, you want to impact the skyline. What does that look like for you? Where do you see your company going and taking the city?
We'll be collaborating with large engineering firms, other design entities on some big projects. We're getting into some commercial sector as a piece. Usually, so if you're smart, get a coach, right? Mm-hmm. So we have coaches for business, people who've ran and run architecture firms, and a balanced portfolio of work is a good thing to have. If let's say, God forbid, something happens to the short-term rental sector, short-term rental situation, and we're not designing, like, we have a lot of clients that we design for that, because obviously with our experience, well, that could that could be a hit, right? So we want to balance that portfolio, just like in any investment. So we're looking at commercial retail. We're doing a lot of that now. We won an award for a chiropractor office last year.
Congrats.
Yeah, custom high-end homes, not just for STRs, but for forever, and accessibility. So universal design is now, if we're talking about trends, I know we mentioned that before, that is something that is extremely important almost in all scenarios. So universal design is essentially designing your space, that's something that you can age into, right? That's going to be accommodating for all humans. That is, and we're not just talking about wider hallways and doorways. We're talking about color palettes, ceiling heights, how you feel and experience the space, a healthy way to function in the space, natural lighting, all the other stuff that come into play. So we're really looking at the whole picture as a tapestry, so that all these different things are now working together to create a masterpiece.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Well, this has been awesome, and I've learned, so I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. For our listeners and viewers that are interested in learning more, how can they find you?
ArcFluence.com, ArcFluence. We are on the socials as well, so just type that in and you'll find us.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. This was awesome.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Nick. That wraps up another episode of Columbus Brick by Brick, where we uncover the people, projects, and ideas shaping the future of our city. A huge thank you to our guests for sharing their insights and contributing to the ongoing story of Columbus. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who'd love learning more about our community. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Columbus Brick by Brick, and visit us anytime at columbusbrickbybrick.com for more episodes and updates. This is Columbus Brick by Brick, where every brick has a story, and we're here to tell it. See you next time.